Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to episode 165 of Dude and a Monkey. My name is Ian Loring, and as always, I'm joined by
Mark Foster. Hello, everybody.
Cracking. So, coming up on this week's show, we got a double review for you. We're going to be getting scared by an old man in an armchair in The Conjuring 2, and Gerard Butler's going to turn into a big metallic eagle thing in Gods of Egypt. Yeah. We'll also talk about some what we watched and whatnot. And Mark introduced a new feature through Twitter, which I'm sure he'll talk about later. So it doesn't feel like it's been that long since we recorded, but it has been nearly a week. But I don't really think much has happened in the film world, and I'll be honest, the England and Wales games are kicking off in less than 90 minutes. So unless there's anything you're burning to talk about, Mark.
Well, there was the tragic news of
yes,
Anton Yelchin dying yesterday. So that was a little bit. I think it's one of those where because he was only 27, and he'd been around for quite a while, but he'd always made sort of quite good stuff, to be honest. Even his big budget stuff was at least interesting, but he made quite a lot of sort of interesting indie films as well. And he always came across as quite a nice guy, which kind of, I know it's like, I'm not saying if you're a bit of a dick, then it's all right for you to die in a not too pleasant way. But it feels like a little bit like shit. There was a lot coming from that kid.
Yeah, it did seem like he had a good little on the margins career, and it kind of felt like give him 10, 20 years and he would be getting Oscar nominations for Best Supporting Actor pretty much every year.
Yeah, he did look like one of those. He looked like he could become a little bit John Hawksey, a little bit like that.
Yeah. I don't know, just a mental way to go as well. Like the poor guy. And yeah, I mean, had you managed to see Green Room yet?
I haven't seen Green Room yet. No, but apparently I heard previously that he was very, that he was very good in it.
Yeah, because he's great, and I don't know. It's interesting. The last line of Green Room is a very jokey line, indicating I don't want to spoil it, but it's about him. His character.
Yeah.
And now that kind of, I don't know, that's going to be a little bit...
on the nose, maybe?
Kinda. Just a bit... It's going to be charged with a bit more emotion than the film intended, I think, going forward. But maybe that's me just looking into it too much. But when you watch Green Room, hopefully you'll see what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I was going into... watching The Conjuring 2 last night at the cinema, thinking, I hope they're in a Star Trek trailer on before this. So yeah, that was probably I think the only movie news we had, and it was not great news, really, was it?
No. I mean, just really, really, really horrible. Like really, really horrible. Okay, trailers. I haven't seen actually. I saw one in front of The Conjuring 2, The Girl with All the Gifts.
Yes, saw that, yeah.
Is it just me, or does that trailer not give a good indication of what's actually going on in this particular virus-riven world? Like, what are the kids infected with, and what makes them go mad? And
was a little bit like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, the trailer was messy, I thought.
It felt a little bit scattered.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of looks interesting. It's one where I think I'd be waiting on reviews before actually going to see it in the cinema. But I don't know. The cast is. It kind of feels like those people wouldn't just do a genre film because whatever. It seems like you get Paddy Considine, there's probably going to be something that draws him to it.
Well, it's made by a guy who directed a lot of the episodes of Peaky Blinders, I think. He directed most of season 2 of Peaky Blinders, I think.
Oh, okay, so that might be what it is. But, I mean, Glenn Close as well. That was Glenn Close, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm interested. We'll see. But yeah, the trailer is very messy. Very messy.
Yes, it is a little bit messy. I saw, what have I seen trailers-wise? Anthropoid, the Jamie Dornan and Cillian Murphy set in Prague Nazi one. Looks all right, but it looks very weighty. It looks very worthy. But looks all right. I understand there's a new trailer out for the David Brent movie, and I couldn't even be asked to watch 2 minutes of it, to be honest.
Nope.
So, yeah, just feels like why, just why?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So no, I didn't see much. It wasn't nearly a week ago since recorded, but yeah, not a lot's really kind of come out really. I think a lot of the big trailers are already here, and everything's kind of now settling for there's the big movies coming out. I mean, there's Independence Day this weekend, isn't there? And then we get kind of into the last wave of big films before we hit sort of September.
Yeah, I mean, Independence Day 2, and then. Well, like Now You See Me 2's the week after. Tarzan's out in a couple of weeks. That, like, kind of crept up.
Yeah, it's kind of come out of nowhere, that.
Yeah, I'm still interested, but it's because of my predilection for apes.
Well, there is that for you, yeah. I'll watch it. Is what I'll say. I'm not interested. Is as far as I'll go, which is fine for a Tarzan movie.
Yeah. I'd say so. Okay, so...
Well, I'll tell you what, that I will do very quick, since we didn't talk a lot about trailers. I'll tell you about my incredibly weird dream that I had the other night.
Sure.
Right? You have to bear with me on this, because it might sound funny at the start. But your good self was in it.
Right.
One of our guest hosts, Noel, was in it.
Mm-hmm.
And we were at a party in Manchester, right, that Noel invited us to, that he was hosting. Except in my brain, the party in Manchester was in a place in York, which makes no sense, but that's what your brain does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
There's a place called the Grey Rooms in York. So me and you were there, and Noel comes up with this guy that's Jordan. It's just Jordan, and he comes up to us and he goes, "You all right, guys?" I'm like, "You all right, Noel?" And he goes, "This is my friend Dean." And me and you look at each other and go, "That's Jordan, Noel." And Noel just goes, "This is my friend Dean." And Jordan just goes, "Hi, my name's Dean." I'm like, "That's Jordan. What is going on?" And then weirdly out of nowhere, a friend of mine, Paul, comes up to say hello to us because he's there for some reason, and just walks up and goes, "Hello." And Noel turns around to him and shouts, "Fuck up. Jesus, Paul, this has nothing to do with you. Go away."
Right.
And then they just, Noel and Jordan, or Dean, just walk off. And Paul walks off. And me and you were still going, "That was weird." And then you can hear in the background, just Noel introducing Jordan to people, just going, "Hello, this is my friend Dean." And then anytime you heard Paul go over and say hello to somebody, even if Noel was nowhere near him, he'd just shout, "Jesus, Paul, shut up. This has nothing to do with you." And that was just how the strangers went for what seemed like an endless amount of time. As me and you were just stood there going, "This is fucking weird, isn't it?"
What? That's... You should have asked him to say Restrepo.
Yes, I should have, yeah. And then I woke up and just thought, that was fucking weird. So yeah, that was my weird dream the other day.
Good work.
Yes.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I had to share it.
Oh, fair enough. That was good. I'm glad you did. This is a comfortable space. So, okay, let's do The Conjuring 2 first, because I think it's fair to say it's the bigger of the films that we're going to focus on this week. So, once again, directed by James Wan, starring Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. Joined this time by Francis O'Connor and Simon McBurney, who as soon as I saw him in it, I was like, yeah, well, of course Simon McBurney's in this. That voice in the trailer where they're listening to the tape, of course that's Simon McBurney. How did I not know he's in this? So, yeah, brilliant. The Conjuring 2, in some territories seems to be known as the Conjuring 2, the Enfield case.
Yeah.
So it's about the Enfield haunting, the infamous Enfield haunting, which hit a family in Enfield, surprisingly, in the 70s. I didn't know that Ed and Lorraine Warren actually became involved in it. I don't know whether they actually did or not. I'm assuming they did to some extent. And it's basically a family is getting terrorized by what seems to be the ghost of an old man called Bill Wilkins, and he sits in an armchair.
Yeah.
And there you go. So The Conjuring 2. Mark, what do you think?
Well, I've kind of been a big fan of this little wave of the James Wan horror films, The Conjuring, the Insidious movies, and things like that. I think they're very solid entries into kind of a modern horror genre, settings where we've got a lot of stuff that just goes for either pure genre picks or goes for gore and nastiness. These don't. They feel like almost, what Hammer kind of new Hammer should have been a little bit. Mm-hmm. They feel like they're accessible horror for people out there to get to. And I like the fact that this seems to be with the start and with the way that it opens and you have the lettering that starts, the text starts, and then The Conjuring 2, which I'm guessing you really liked. I then filled the screen and then carried on going. I really like those opening credits.
The Insidious films are brilliant as well because it's just like there's kind of like a moody atmosphere, and then suddenly it's a load of strings and just Insidious in big letters on the screen. He's a big fan of big letters on the screen, as James Wan, and I long may it continue.
Yeah, I like the fact that also as well. This is 2.5 hours long. And although I'll come to some issues with that later on, I like the idea that I was going and I was sitting down to watch a 2 hours 15-minute horror film, because it's almost like they've gone, look, we've established we're good at horror. We've established that you've enjoyed these horror. Now trust us with 2 and a bit hours, because we're going to try and do something a little bit. We're going to try and make a really good film, not just a really good horror film. And they're trying to up the ante on themselves. They're going more for something like they're reaching for Exorcist levels. I'm not saying they're hitting it. I'm not saying that that's what they're going for, something as good as that. But they're looking at that rather than looking at Saw 3, for instance. That's the kind of what they're going for. Over, look, we're doing that. We're trying to make a proper film that happens to be a horror, rather than just cashing in on the fact that the first one was successful.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it's horror with a budget and with production value, and not like just like, oh, it's amazing what they did on a budget of $5 million or whatever. It's like this cost like 40, 50, 60 million dollars, and it looks like it. It looks great.
Yeah, and overall, I think it's got issues, but overall, I do think it's very good. And the clever thing that James Wan does is he's a clever director in terms of he uses very simple things to do very smart things with, and it's why someone like James Wan can make a movie like The Conjuring 2 for $40 million when in the hands of somebody else who doesn't maybe understand the genre as well, or doesn't appreciate the genre as well, or isn't as clever and a savvier director, might spend more. For instance, it's quite clear that there's a scene in The Conjuring 2, and it's actually in the trailer. So we're all spoilers all the time anyway. Where a load of crucifixes in a room turn round. And they just turn round. Now, what's great about that is that either there's some kind of pulley mechanism, or quite literally there's a load of crew members behind those panels turning those around. And he goes, right, start now. And they turn them as you see each person, and that's done. And that can be done for, what, $15 maybe? But
Sure.
I guarantee you there will have been another director who will have said to, in that sort of scene in their hands, who would have said to a bunch of computer tech guys, right, I need all of these to turn around. And it'd have been I don't know how much, a $30,000 shot or something insane like that to spend all that man time to computer generate, and it wouldn't have looked good. Where it's just, you could tell it was just a bunch of people just turning around from the other side, and it's that kind of smartness that you kind of that works with horror, and it sets it apart, and it was creepy, and that's what I really dig about this. Like I say, I did have some issues with it, but overall, I really enjoyed it. Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga are great as these characters.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, what I think is interesting, I mean, I was listening to the Empire podcast, and they had James Wan and Patrick Wilson on it. I listened to the interview before I saw the film, and one was saying that after Fast 7, he was looking forward to going back to a film where he could hold a shot for longer than 5 seconds. And, you can see that here. I mean, the fact is, James Wan could have done bloody anything.
Yeah.
And what did he do? He does The Conjuring 2. He goes back to the Conjuring because he obviously really likes the material.
Yeah,
and I mean, with Aquaman, he says he's attracted to that because it's basically DC have said to him, look, you can build your own world here. And I'm really into seeing what that is. So yeah, no, I mean, I'm a fan of this as well. I watched The Conjuring on Saturday before seeing this on Sunday, and I do think The Conjuring is better overall, but marginally, and I think it is just because it is a bit tighter. And my issues with this film are basically, I think the third act does go a little bit too overblown. There's a bit too much stuff happening, and the whole the demon is basically bringing them there so it can kill Patrick Wilson or something. It was a little messy, I thought. It was like, right, why is the demon actually there? Is it after the people in the house, or is it after Patrick Wilson, or is it just after both? I'm not too sure. Whereas the Conjuring, yes, you had the Annabelle stuff, because in The Conjuring, the sequence where their daughter's kind of like terrorized by Annabelle is really random.
Yeah.
And because the A plot in The Conjuring is kind of ramping up when the Annabelle thing happens and there's only like a half hour to go in The Conjuring when you get like a 10-minute sojourn with Annabelle, and then it's the last 15 minutes or so with the A plot, and it kind of does that again here, but shorter bits, but a few more of them with the nun. And I don't know, I'm just a little, what do we actually care about? But it's a horror film. At one moment, I involuntarily actually said "fucking hell" and laughed to myself, which doesn't happen often. And at one point, I actually looked away from the screen.
Ooh. So the point where you said "fucking hell," was that the Bill in the water bit?
No.
Did not?
No, but I know what you mean. No. And the thing is, what one does better in this than the first film, for my money, is that the scare sequences are longer and more sustained, and I actually think more effective. Mm-hmm. I mean, it doesn't help that the trailer for The Conjuring, the first trailer, spoiled the clap clap.
Yeah.
Which outside of the trailer is by far the best scare in that film. It's brilliant, and the way it builds up, and you're just not expecting just hands to pop up behind her and do that. Here, it's the end of the sequence with the TV and the remote, and it's a jump scare.
Yeah,
but it's a really good one where the girl is like framed like just in front of the TV, and it cuts, and suddenly the guys behind her and just goes, "My house!" like really loudly, and it got me.
It's a good shot. It is a good shot, yeah.
Because that's the thing. It's a jump scare, but it's a really good shot as well. And like, he just does really interesting things with the framing here. And I mean, like probably like the best shot is the one shot where Patrick Wilson's got his back turned.
Oh, and her the little girl, essentially, you can see her as the more and more Bill starts to talk, the more and more she turns into Bill.
Yeah, and then like she kind of grows.
Yeah,
and you can see his mouth, and like the fact she's got like the water in her mouth and whatnot. And just how long that goes for, but there's no scares.
And as well, the fact is that it's not a flashy shot because you're not because what you're seeing it isn't perfectly in focus, so you can only just make it out if you actually notice it. There'll be plenty of people who, through no fault of their own, won't notice that because they'll be too busy focusing on Patrick Wilson. But if you notice in the background, he gradually gets bigger and it becomes Bill, and then all of a sudden it shrinks back down to her. It's a really effective shot, but it's not showing off. It's just smart filmmaking.
Yeah, no, exactly. And but also with that, I mean, one gets good performances as well. Like the girl who plays Janet is pretty terrific.
Yeah.
And the mum, Frances O'Connor, is great. And also,
but I think her accent is a little bit too much at point.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of it's Cockney, not Cockney, but London accents in a Hollywood film. It kind of is what it is.
It is. It's one of those, but it is a little bit. It's a little bit like somebody who grew up in a posh part of London doing a joke voice, which is kind of what it is, actually.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. But I mean, also Simon McBurney as well. I thought they did some really a good, clever thing with him, where earlier on in the film he just looked really pleased about everything, and Vera Farmiga kind of calls him out on it and says, this isn't an opportunity. And I was thinking, yeah, and then he kind of explains his reasoning, and it's more he really wants to prove that there is an afterlife to soothe his own sorrow.
Yeah.
And immediately it's like, shit, all right, I completely misread him. And maybe it's because he's played by Simon McBurney, who's usually a bit of a shitheel. And I thought he played pretty well against type there. And it's kind of a shame that his character kind of swiftly exits after that.
It is, because it is a good, like you say, when she calls him on it and you think, good on you. And then he comes out with it and it's like, fair enough.
I mean, it's well cast. I mean, Franca Potenti as well. Like, where the fuck has she been?
Yeah, because she's good, and she crops up, in kind of horror and genre picks quite a lot.
Yeah,
that's her first film in 6 years.
Bloody hell! Wow.
I'm guessing kids is what I'm guessing.
Yeah, you'd imagine so, wouldn't you?
She's TV series.
Oh,
she's in a TV series called Copper.
Copper. Well, good on her. No, fair play. I don't know. It just the scare sequences are decent. I mean, the one I moved away from the screen, it was the nun. The nun in the room with Vera Farmiga, and where her shadow kind of like moves on the wall over to the painting. I was just like, nah. It's gonna come screaming out at you in a minute. Nah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like I spent the night before shitting myself playing 8 minutes of Resident Evil 7. So
I saw that.
I was just like, no. That
one was ruined for me. But what I will say very quickly is that is the last time I will go and see a movie on an evening. Is what I will say.
Oh no!
Because there was, oh my god, a litany of arseholes at my screening, including not the row in front, but the row next down, who, anytime the girl thought that she saw something was going to happen, she'd turn around to her boyfriend and she went, oh, she's looking at that painting, isn't she? She's looking at that painting, isn't she? And then was going, as it was going round, she was just tapping him. I'm not saying it quietly, going, told you. And then she went, yay! And I'm like, I honestly want to stab you in the back of the head right now.
I went to an 11 o'clock screening yesterday morning, and there was maybe 5 of us in there. It was bliss.
I wanted to go to a morning screening, but Becky wouldn't let us because she said it's stupid going to watch a horror film in the morning. So when we got out, I was like, that's why we fucking don't go on an evening.
Yeah, no, it's to be fair, she's got a point. And
There's a point, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, but I still won't do it again.
Fair enough. No, but yeah, I was impressed. I always like James Wan horror films.
Yeah, I do, to be honest. Yeah, I think Wilson's very good in it. He had a little bit more to do than Vera Farmiga, who just, I don't know, I want to see a little bit more from her than essentially the same as what I thought she did in The Conjuring.
You know, I will say as well, it was watching them in such close proximity. It's weird that the first film is Patrick Wilson really wanting Vera Farmiga to like stop it because of like the experience she had, and like that. I did like the way that was actually brought back into this one. Like the vision that she was having was of Patrick Wilson dying all along, and in the first one he actually says she locked herself up in a room for 8 days. I've never asked her why she did it. I'm never going to, and that's actually called back. I thought that was pretty good. But in this one, it's the other way round. And it's a little bit like, well, Patrick Wilson, when did you suddenly just start getting completely comfortable with her doing all this again? I thought you said in the first one it takes a bit of her every single time.
Yeah.
But now you're like, we've got to help them. I mean, mate, I don't know. And also, actually, I will say, I really, really like the start, the fact that it starts with Amityville, and it completely throws you off. And if you knew nothing about this going in, you'd be like, shit, this is going to be about Amityville. Oh, wow. And then 10 minutes, no.
Well, that's it. When it started, it came in, and, you know, the opening shot with that, Bex just tapped me on the shoulder and went, that's the Amityville house.
Yeah, totally, with the kind of eye-looking windows.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, it is. And then it came up, it's like, well, of course, they did report on Amityville afterwards, and it's nice that they're, I don't know, it sets them up as having credence, but also it sets them up as having a point within the horror world. Yeah,
no, absolutely. I mean, I like that these films barely really try to say that Ed and Lorraine... It doesn't make judgments on Ed and Lorraine Warren.
No.
And, I mean, they could well be charlatans. You know, they probably are. But this is the movie world, Ed and Lorraine Warren. And in that world, they are people who want to help people and kind of take things into their own hands. And I'm happy with that. There's barely any sense of biopic to this, I think.
No, it very much is. It's like I say, it's a movie world. Then it's each individual story. It's not saying how it affected them. This is the story that happens to be theirs.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I don't know. If they do a third one, I would like to see them maybe change it up a bit. Like this one, in terms of its structure, is pretty similar to the first one. But, you know, the change of location is helpful.
I mean, there's going to be a third.
No, totally.
There will be a third, but Wan said that he's probably not going to direct.
Which is a shame.
Because, the reason why he said it, apparently, is because other commitments.
Yeah, well, I mean, Aquaman's probably going to take it. Unless Warner's want to wait a while, then I think that's probably wise. But you know, he could turn around and say, they could turn around and say, look, we want to give you a sequel, but will you do it after Aquaman? Fair enough, you could see him doing that. And apparently there is going to be a spin-off as well, isn't there? Yeah, with the Nun.
With the Nun, yeah. So I think that seems like they've got a method now. So, you know, that it could be quite interesting. And, you know, they'll keep being allowed to make them as long as they keep making money.
Yeah, exactly. And the Nun one's probably going to be on a budget like half the scale. But I don't know whether I could actually take watching the Nun one in the cinema. The Nun really...
You think it might do a little bit too much for you? Might be a step too far.
Yeah, the Nun really freaked me out. It's the eyes. It's like with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles I was talking about last week. It's the eyes, man.
It is. They are quite freaky. I will say that.
But yeah, I don't know how much more we got to say, but I was a fan. Like I say, I mildly prefer the first one, even though on rewatch that might actually change. Actually, one thing I will say, the Crooked Man CG really took me out of it.
It was weird, that, yeah.
It's just like there's only a few shots of it, but it's the only really, really, really obvious CG in the whole thing. And I get what they're going for because they are making it look cartoony and look like an illustration. But no.
Yeah. It wasn't a massive issue, but yeah, it was a little bit peculiar.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, definitely not shit. More really solid horror from James Wan, and I hope it continues.
Yeah, absolutely.
And do you want to talk to us about the Twitter thing you did?
Yeah, you've got a Twitter poll thing that you can do now. So I just thought, you know what? We'll throw this out every week, and it's something I'll do every week for the feature film we're reviewing, or for any sort of film if we're doing a specific film. So even if we're doing like a review of Independence Day, and then we say we're going to talk about Independence Day 2, for instance.
Yeah.
So I threw a poll out to ask folks what they thought of The Conjuring, based on our usual rating, which is shit, touching cloth, and definitely not shit. I'm in the definitely not shit camp, and as Ian just said, it is as well. So far, after 13 votes, it is 23% shit, 8% touching cloth, and 69% definitely not shit.
Yay!
So I'd say that's quite good. I've just left them open for the day for this one, but on future ones, I might leave it open for the week, and that way when people have watched it, if they watch it during the week, they can add to it. But it's just fun to sort of see what the actual sort of general sort of what the listenership, I suppose, thinks of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, nice one. What do you want to do? What we watched all Gods of Egypt?
We'll do Gods of Egypt that way. If we start hitting towards sort of time where we want it to wrap up, we can do.
Yeah, okay.
I haven't got that much to talk about in terms of what I watch anyway.
Okay, cool. All right, so Gods of Egypt is directed by Alex Proyas and stars.
Amazingly, it's directed by Alex Proyas.
Sorry.
Amazingly.
Yeah. Starring Nikolai Coster-Waldau, Brenton Thwaites, Gerard Butler, Brian Brown, Elodie Young, and Geoffrey Rush as Ra, the sun god. Gods of Egypt, Mark.
Gods of Egypt, a film that I remember seeing the trailer for, and then forgetting that it actually existed, to be honest. I didn't think about it until a few weeks ago, and I thought, I wonder whatever happened to that Gerard Butler Egypt movie. That seemed to just go and then, just arrive and then disappear without anybody noticing. And then I saw a trailer for it in the cinema and thought, oh, it's not been out yet. Fair enough. I thought, I'm sure it's been out. Turned out it had been out in America for quite a while. So yeah, it's. I don't understand how the fuck this got made.
Now that is the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is, because Alex Proyas hasn't made a movie in 7 years, right?
Well, Knowing was his last one.
Knowing was his last film, and Ian quite likes Knowing, which is admirable.
I will stand by Knowing. I think that film is kind of balmy and awesome, and I'm a big fan of the ending.
I kind of want to rewatch it because I remember hating it, but I'm willing to give it another go. But he did. This is the guy who did The Crow and Dark City, which were both fantastic, and then it's so bad, Gods of Egypt, that it's mind-boggling that guy made those movies and then made this. And to give an idea, this is written by the same people who wrote, I think, Dracula Untold and what's the other one they wrote? The Last Witch Hunter, I think it was.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
That's a trio of terrible movies to have written in a couple of years to have been released in cinemas.
Yeah. I mean, what? How did they get $160 million?
No idea. Where was it spent?
Yeah.
Because it seems like what they did was they used literally a score that they found on a really old hard drive that was labelled The Mummy 3 and went, well, I'll fucking do. And then found a lot of effects on the same hard drive and went, well, that'll do.
and none of the cast are going to demand that much money.
No.
Not that much. I mean, Gerard Butler would, probably get a couple million?
I would say for this type of movie, I would say Butler will get quite a lot, actually.
Yeah, I mean, that's
surprised me is if they turned up to Gerard Butler and went, we want you to make this Gods of Egypt movie, and you got the scripts and went, right, brilliant, yeah, I'll do that. And then they went, and we want to give you 10 million. And he was like, yeah.
I mean, what makes me laugh about it is that London Has Fallen came out like literally the next week in the US, and he was all over social media about London Has Fallen.
Yeah.
And like didn't utter a word about Gods of Egypt.
I mean, he must know it's a bad movie.
Yeah, and I let's not get too much on this, but the whole rant that Proyas had about critics, the thing is, it's kind of easy to pile on it because of that, but it straight up, objectively, it's a bad film. And the only reason why I kind of enjoyed watching it was for the fucking mental, who the shit thought that was a good idea moments of it.
Yeah, because even performances, they're really bad. Really, I mean, Brett Thwaites, the lead guy, is Beck, is terrible. So bad. He's like a cartoon come to life.
Yeah, and I mean, Nikolai Coster-Waldau is, I like, my favourite moment of his was that very early on in the film where he falls into that pool.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, all right, you're a cocky bastard. That's good. I could have done with more cocky bastard.
Yeah, but it did feel a little bit like a scene later when he's getting his ass kicked by Gerard Butler. It's a bit like, bet you wish you weren't hanging now, motherfucker, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, well, yeah, quite. I know Gerard Butler is doing Gerard Butler. It is what it is.
Brian Brown.
Yeah, Brian Brown as well. Like, the fact that his dying words are, your journey is just beginning, or your journey is only just beginning. It's, I don't know. Who would say that as their dying words?
There's some bad lines in this movie.
Oh, God. I mean, fuck, I outnumber you. God, Chadwick Boseman's in this, isn't he?
Chadwick Boseman's really, really bad in this as well.
Yeah.
And this is a guy who was on the cusp a few years ago. People, were saying, look, this guy's good. This guy's really good. And then, it's kind of like, this is going to be the one that he never wants to talk about.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's Eddie Redmayne with Jupiter Ascending. It's
his Jupiter Ascending.
I mean, Gerard Butler. This is kind of his level.
Yeah, this is perfectly acceptable Butler fare.
Yeah, I Brenton Thwaites, whatever. Has he been in stuff?
He'll have been in some kind of what is it, young adult novel fucking franchise, probably. Yeah, he just looks. He looks so wet.
Yeah,
I've just seen a picture of him. And he looks so much like he'd read to old ladies. Oh my God, he's going to be playing. He's going to be in the new Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
He's going to be playing Will Turner and Keira Knightley's son.
Oh, of course he is.
What's he been in? He was in Home and Away.
Okay, Branton. Yep, sounds Australian. Okay.
Yeah. No, nothing that fucking you know him from. But yeah, he's bad in this.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is as well, apparently they shot on a lot of real locations, but there's so much CG all over the place that you can't really tell.
Yeah.
It's just a blancmange of CG.
And the fact that the gods turn into things, but they turn into really weird looking things that are made of metal.
Yeah, and the whole kind of like beast mode Gerard Butler.
Yeah.
Like what that was about. I mean, it's a bad film.
It's a really bad film, and it's over 2 hours long, and it feels like you're watching an entire terrible 10-hour series.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just the hero's journey. They go all over the bloody place, and it literally feels like it's timed that once an action scene ends, there's a 6-minute timer until the next one, and then it just has to start no matter what. I don't know. It's just mythology made by idiots, and then it's like whatever the rules are, they just say what the rules are, and it's like, all right, then fine, I suppose.
Yeah, there was a lot of voiceover in it as well from supposedly the Beck character.
Oh, yeah.
Which was painful, and he's kind of explaining what's going on, and you're going, "We're watching it. You're just telling us what's happening."
Yeah.
You know, this is you are literally just there to explain things that we've just seen.
Yeah, there you go. I bad. It's bad.
It's shit.
It's bad. It's shit. But Geoffrey Rush plays Ra, the sun god, and every day he has to battle a big Sarlacc pit-looking motherfucker.
And he gets dressed by hitting himself in the chest.
Oh my god! Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And yeah. The Geoffrey Rush bits I was entertained by.
Well, yeah, I don't blame you. He literally stands up and just goes, "Oh, wait a minute." I was like, all right, that's how you put an outfit on. It's chest again. Another outfit comes on. It's chest again. And the next one goes on. It's like, wait a second, I just got to go. Just do something quickly. It's like, what's he doing? And he comes back and says, I've got. And essentially what he does is he goes and fights a giant cloud and then comes back and goes, I've got to do that every night. I've got to do that. And then later on, the wonderfulness of him bringing Gerard Butler up and going, this is it. This is what your destiny was. This is what I built you for. This is what I did for you to take over from me. And Gerard Butler Setch goes, no, fuck off, it sounds shit.
To be fair, that was pretty good. Where he's almost looking like bewildered, just like, what? Well, you think I want to do this? Do you? Like, I mean that was fascinating. It
was just literally no. I'm not doing it. I'm a god down there. Have you seriously not been watching, Dad? Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah, it's a terrible movie. And to be honest, our listenership seems to agree with us.
How they turn out?
Definitely not shit. 8%.
Wow. Okay, good for you.
Touching cloth 0%.
Okay.
Shit 92%.
How many votes?
13.
That's good. All right, fair enough. So that's what, like one person.
One person thought it was definitely not shit. And do you know what? Bravo to you, like Ian says. I am absolutely stoked that you had a good time with this. Because why not enjoy something like this? Why not enjoy Rufus Sewell trying to explain why something was was completely impenetrable? Going, yeah, might have said that.
Yeah. The thing is, it's so mental in its construction and how it exists that I can't hate it. It's terrible.
I don't hate it. No, it's terrible.
I'm not like apoplectic about it.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
It exists. I've watched it. I'm kind of glad I've watched it. But yeah, I never need to see it again.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Gods of Egypt. Well done, Alex Proyas. I think you actually set fire to your career quite nicely there. So good on you. I mean, like, seriously, $160 million to make it. Like, so how much must it, like, to break even? They would have had to make what, like 350, $400 million?
Yeah.
Who the fuck thought this was gonna make $350 million?
That cast.
With the yeah,
Yeah.
I just wow,
Yeah.
wow. It's poop.
Yes, it is. It's a bad movie.
It's poop. Right, yeah. Moving on. What we've been watching, Mark?
Yeah, I've had a couple. There's been a lot of football on, so I've watched a lot of football.
Right.
So there's been that, but I have caught a couple. I watched the Todd Williams movie Cell, which is based on a Stephen King book, and stars John Cusack and Samuel L. Jackson, and Stacey Keach appears as well in it there as well, and Isabel Furman. Film starts. One good thing about Cell is it starts fucking quickly. Literally, I mean, it starts and it gets in and starts telling us its point really quickly. John Cusack is in an airport and his phone battery dies, so he's using the phone to call his. I'm going to say it's estranged wife, and he's calling her to sort of say, that I think he's been trying to sell a graphic novel that he's been writing, and he's calling out saying, look, it's sold quite well. The distributors have bought it, and everything looks really good. And then he starts noticing in the airport, all of these people start having really bad sort of clutching their head and screaming, and then essentially turning into basically zombies and start attacking each other. And then quickly devices that this is caused by them using mobile phones. And then he teams up with a subway driver played by Samuel L. Jackson, and they go off in search of somewhere where this isn't happening, and etc. and pick up people on the way. And it's that kind of movie. We've had quite a lot of them recently. It happens incredibly quickly, this movie. I mean, it's just under 100 minutes long, but it jumps from bit to bit, and you're watching it going, well, hang on a minute, have I missed like 5 minutes of this? Because they seem to have gone from there to there to there to there to there to there really, really quickly. And it's not that they're not explaining it, it's just that everything kind of happens. And it's like, all right, yeah, that's fine. Like, John Cusack meets up with Samuel L. Jackson, and they're on the subway, and Samuel L. Jackson says, oh, we need to get out, we need to get above ground, we can't go into the airport because everything's going wrong. And Samuel L. Jackson says, oh, we should go down the train tracks. And John Cusack goes, that's a good idea. And everyone else goes, we're not doing that. So they go, and then they go to John Cusack's house, and they're at John Cusack's house, and John Cusack saying to Samuel L. Jackson, oh, I'm really glad I met you. And if you think that I'm rushing that, that is basically how quickly that happens. And it's so jarring that that's happening, and you're coupling that with the fact that it's John Cusack's week with the Cusack Cage wig, so that's really off-putting. And it's just it's a weird film in that you kind of expect this from Cusack now, but you don't from Jackson.
Yeah.
It feels more like a Stephen King movie that would have been made 25 years ago than one that gets made now.
Okay.
And it's a little bit... I can see why this went to VOD rather than came out in cinemas. Because if it had been a bit better and a bit more polished and had a bit more to it, it probably would have played at cinemas. But it's not. And there's some really weird kind of scenes in it where characters do stuff and you go, this is just dumb.
Yeah.
This is dumb for a horror movie. And it is like that, but it kind of seems to think that it's not. And I'd be fascinated to hear other people's kind of views on it. But it kind of ended, and I was quite looking forward to it, and I was quite on board with the idea of it and going forward with it. And then it ended, and I was like, oh, that's a huge fucking disappointment because that was a bit shit. And the ending's just really quite shit.
Okay.
I'm not gonna spoil it for you, but yeah, don't rush to it.
Okay, fair enough.
And the other film I watched was another kind of thrillery mystery film, which you actually recommended to me, or recommended I watch. I can't remember for the life of me if you said that you really liked it or really didn't like it. Predestination.
Yeah, I liked Predestination. I didn't love it, but yeah, solid little. Yeah, what do you think?
I really enjoyed it actually. Yeah, it's a really interesting idea behind it. The fact that you've got a time travel movie that essentially is set. It's clever in the fact that it takes you back in time to then tell its story from that place, but bounce around time within it. It is a really kind of interesting idea, and the fact that it's quite a small. It's quite what starts off as you're thinking it's going to be quite a broad picture, and it's going to be him going off to do this and catch this guy and do this along the way. And it's not. It's actually quite a small picture. It's actually it's all about kind of this one girl essentially reciting her story and her life story, and Ethan Hawke kind of going okay, whilst all the time trying to sort of get the angle in, and you know, as an audience you're watching it going, right, well he's there for a specific reason. He's talking to this person for a specific reason to get this Fizzle Bomber. What's her relation to the Fizzle Bomber? She's clearly the Fizzle Bomber, but in what way? How does that work? And the thing is, all of its twists, because this movie thinks it has a lot of twists, all of its twists you see coming a mile off, but that doesn't stop them from still being really quite entertaining and really quite, I like the way that he's found that out. I like that. I like that. I like that. That's good. And it's almost the point of where I got the feeling that the writers and directors, Michael and Peter Spieger, are not trying to be clever with it. They've just happened to be quite clever at telling their story. And I really kind of like that element of it, in the fact that they're almost telling you, look, this is where it's going. This is where it's going. And it's not that you're spotting the twist. It's that you're watching a character not figure it out. It's him who can't figure it out, not the audience who can't figure it out. And I really like that. And Ethan Hawke's very good at doing that kind of role. He has that kind of slightly unhinged everyman quality about him. And Sarah Snook's quite good as that character. And at first the voice kind of jars you a little bit because you're going, how does he not work out that's a fucking woman?
Yeah.
And then when she starts explaining the voice, you're like, that makes sense. That makes sense. Sure. And every little bit of it starts to make sense within it. And then when it all works out, and you work out that it's actually it's all this little, it's all one separate universe, and essentially he's like a tool. The character. He's a tool, almost like a part training tool and part kind of keeper of the peace tool. It's a really clever story, and I it's one that I'll definitely watch again because it'd be quite interesting to pick out. knowing how everything works, it'd be quite interesting to pick out how it all kind of goes, and the fact that it's a consistent loop.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the thing. It kind of feels like the guys who wrote and directed it know, like they've kind of tested out their theories and stuff, and they're like, you can't poke holes in it. It's a fucking loop.
Yeah, that's it. It is. It's very clever in the fact that you're watching a guy we know his loop, and it's predestination in the fact that that this has been orchestrated by them so that all of these things will consistently happen. It's not altering the future. This is how the future before and after they've altered it so it always stays the same. It's a really clever. At no point will anything he does alter what it is, because he's constantly doing the things he's supposed to do. It's a magnificent sort of social manipulation. It's fantastic.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm glad you liked it, man. Yeah, it's a really interesting little film. In fact, Sarah Snook is fantastic.
Yeah, she is very good. It's a very well acted movie across the whole thing. It's nice seeing Noah Taylor in something as well. He's very good in anything he does, really. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's actually, it'll be one that I'll certainly watch again.
Nice, man. Good work.
Cool. Go on then. What have you been watching this past week?
So yeah, I forgot about something last week.
Yeah.
The worst film I've seen so far this year, I think.
Ooh, you need to get some shit off your chest.
Yeah, Dad's Army. Right. Dad's Army. So when this came out in the cinemas, I was actually somewhat intrigued. I almost went to see it. And yeah. The thing is, Toby Jones, Bill Nighy, Michael Gambon, that's an interesting threesome. Well, it would be a very interesting one. I like it just I don't know. And Dad's Army, I remember it being quite funny, like at moments. This film, with Brexit this week, it feels like this film is perfectly tuned to people who just want a Brexit. Because it speaks to a rose-tinted nostalgia about Britain, which is utterly misguided.
Yeah.
And the film manages to have rose-tinted glasses, but still make it look like shit. It's and not in a kind of, not in the like bomb ravaged kind of way. Just it looks like a really boring place to live. And the film's idea of action is a car exploding on a beach and men running away from a really slow moving bull. They couldn't even get a bull to run at people. The bull's just like, what? It's fucking Dad's Army, bud. I'm just gonna saunter. No, I'm not running. Fuck off. Look, why am I running? It's Toby Jones. I don't need to run after Toby Jones. Maybe I'll prance.
If I run too quickly, I'll catch him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, So a base story. Catherine Zeta-Jones is a Nazi spy. She infiltrates the home front by being Catherine Zeta-Jones in a world full of horny men.
The Catherine Zeta-Jones thing, it's a little bit like, look, Cathy, you weren't that alluring when you thought you were alluring. You can't do it now. You really, it's tragic.
No, I mean, yeah, and the thing is, she looks like she's above it all the entire time. And do you know what? In all fairness, she is.
I don't think she is anymore, though.
Sorry?
I don't think she is anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, everybody in this cast is above it apart from Blake Harrison. This is Blake Harrison's level, and that's fine. Neil from The Inbetweeners, yeah, I'd say the Dad's Army film is about your level. Toby Jones, I'd like, what the fuck these guys are doing here? I don't know. Bill Nighy is basically doing Bill Nighy.
That's all he can do.
It's all like, like shaking his head gently and scoffing. And Michael Gambon, I just no. You're Dumbledore, bud. You don't turn up in a Hawaiian dress and piss yourself. It's no, just no. So but the thing is, it concentrates on like a bizarre love triangle between Wilson Mannering and Catherine Zeta-Jones, where Catherine Zeta-Jones is a Nazi spy throughout the whole thing, and yet it's them and Blake Harrison is kind of into her as well. So you've got the three of them going after Catherine Zeta-Jones. So a cue about an hour's worth of sitcom level, someone tries to seduce her and then someone else comes in, so that person hides behind the sofa, and then the second seducer's there, and then a third person comes along, so then the second seducer hides behind a curtain while the third one's there, and it just, come on.
It just feels, from everything you're describing, like it's just, we've moved on from this. We have. We've moved on from this that was funny because it was the only fucking thing on TV at that time.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, the thing is, I mean, my dad used to love Dad's Army, and my father-in-law really likes Dad's Army, but I don't know. I think they'd be disappointed in it. I mean, my father-in-law hasn't actually watched it yet. I would genuinely like to get his opinion, but I don't know. I mean, it hasn't. I don't think it's done super, super, super well. It's made $13 million worldwide.
It's the type of movie where the people who liked it were always going to like it. It's that type of movie.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, I suppose so. I'm trying to find out what the fucking budget was. It's only come out in 2 countries.
The budget must be maximum like 12-15 million.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not getting any joy here. It came out in the UK and New Zealand.
There you go then.
And I mean, it made 12,300,000 in the UK. So it's done all right in the UK, but I can't help but think they were expecting Best Exotic Marigold Hotel type of business from this, and like you say, it does feel like we've moved on, but I don't know. It just it is cinema for UKIP supporters. It's people wanting to go back to this world that looked really, really shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, done. Dad's Army is fucking bobbins. Right, what else? So yeah, 2 others on a much better front. John Frankenheimer's Seconds, starring Rock Hudson. So basically, story is this guy in his 50s or early 60s, banker, has been getting phone calls from someone claiming to be a friend of his who died, and doesn't sound anything like his friend. Have you seen this?
I've not seen it, no.
Okay. Then the caller says, I'm only going to call, this is the last time I'm going to call, gives a load of details that only the guy would know, and then he's like, look, if you're interested, go to this address. Guy goes to this address, and he's confronted with this really everyday, bland, bureaucratic organisation which specialises in faking men's deaths and giving them new identities so that they can start their lives over in the way that they'd want to live their lives. And it's fascinating. The first half an hour or so is basically this guy almost just going through the motions and agreeing to set fire to his life. But there's stuff like he's having he's ushered into this room with this person, and he's offered a sandwich, and he's like, no, I'm okay. And then the guy who he's in the room with starts talking to him, and the guy keeps on looking at his sandwich and going are you not going to have that sandwich? It looks very nice. And then he's like, no. And then he just starts kind of talking about the procedures again. And he's like, I'm sorry, would you mind if I have that? It looks really nice and I'm very hungry. And he spends the rest of the scene just eating this sandwich while he's talking to this bewildered guy about changing his identity when all he really wanted to do was just find out what had happened to his friend. And so it's this really surreal, you're in a dream place where you're just floating along and you just find yourself agreeing to this stuff, and then you become Rock Hudson. And it's kind of awesome. And then, like, it's basically, this guy now looks like Rock Hudson, and he's kind of starting his life over. And it's him basically discovering that he's kind of fucked up this other life as well. So then he wants to go through the procedure again. But then it's like bureaucracy kind of getting in his way. And it all builds up through this mental sense of paranoia and things just not being right, just stuff being left of centre. And it's fucking fascinating and nightmarish and really unnerving, but also really funny. And I don't know, I didn't know what I was expecting from it, but it wasn't this.
I'm going to add it to the list, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, it was on Mubi, and I had less than 24 hours to watch it before it disappeared off Mubi. So I watched most of it on a sunbed in Spain, and which obviously wasn't the optimal viewing on my phone. Not the optimal viewing. If I'd watched this in a cinema, I think I would have walked out just being like, right, the world's not quite right anymore. It's fucking fascinating. It's one of the best things I've seen this year. And the ending's a little telegraphed, and it slightly loses its steam in the third act, but the opening half hour, 40 minutes or so is fucking 5-star, like 6 out of 5-star. It's great. Oh. I don't know. It's just this guy being presented with his feelings. He's like, well, I don't know, and I'm not really too sure. And it's like, you're being asked to change your identity. Like, how are you just saying, I'm not too sure about that? Because, it's fascinating, Mark. It's fascinating.
I'll add it to the list and certainly give it a go.
Yeah, man. It's really, really interesting. And last thing, a film that actually came out VOD in the UK today by the name of The Violators, which is writer-director debut of Helen Walsh, who apparently is a novelist. I don't know, but apparently she is. And The Violators. So it's set in the kind of more run-down areas of Cheshire, which isn't something you see every day. And basically, it's about two girls. A pawn shop owner takes an interest in one of the girls, and as this is happening, the girl is befriended by another girl who's kind of better off, and takes a weird, deep interest in the girl from the more run-down area, and it tackles themes of domestic abuse and the sins of the fathers. And narratively, it's not super, super hot. There's, I don't know, the film kind of becomes obsessed with soap opera plot twists in the last 20 minutes, which
right.
I thought was a little disappointing, but a really, really, really good sense of atmosphere. You don't want to be in any of these places. Very, very scuzzy feel. And the performances are pretty fantastic. Lorna McQueen in the central role is the girl from the more deprived background. She's very, very good, very natural. Very like Kate Jarvis in Fish Tank. Where she's got a thick skin, but she's still very sensitive. Brogan Ellis, I think her name is, as the other girl, not as good, but gets more of the soap opera-y type stuff. So I think the material kind of lets her down. But this guy, Stephen Lord, he plays the pawn shop owner. He's got that kind of wolf in sheep's clothing thing going on, where you can tell he's an utter bastard, but you could see how he could be very charming as well and very dangerous, and it evokes that very well. Is it worth a few quid on VOD? Yes. Is it worth one of those, a tenner on Curzon Home Cinema? No. But it was interesting, and even though she's a novelist, I'd maybe kind of like to see Helen Walsh direct and not write and see what happens. But yeah, no, it was all right. I think my review on Vodzilla, I think it was like a 6.5 or a 6.7 or something. So I'm there. The performances are good, the atmosphere is good, the narrative not as much.
Cool.
It'll probably be on Netflix in a few months.
That's it. It will be one of those, won't it?
Yeah. So yeah, that's The Violators. It's not bad, and that's it for me.
Cool.
Let's see if we got any mail. I didn't check last week.
We've got no questions, is what I'll say.
Fuckers.
Yeah. Well, while you're doing that, what we're covering next week, I'm guessing we are covering Independence Day by any chance?
Yeah, why not, eh? That is one that's going to go one of two ways, I think.
Yeah, I went into view yesterday when I was watching Conjuring, and every single poster place is an Independence Day poster.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's a 12-screen view as well, so it's not like it's a small view. But yeah, every single poster space is Independence Day, and it's everywhere. And it's a little bit like you're either really confident in this movie or not confident at all. I can't quite work it out.
I'll tell you what, it's only 2 hours.
Is it? Ooh.
Running time on BBFC is 120 minutes.
Well, that's actually that's a little better about it, to be honest.
Yeah. 119 minutes and 34 seconds. Good on him.
When was the last time Roland Emmerich did anything that was under 2 and a bit hours?
Even though I do wonder, though, like, because there was talk that this was going to be 2 films at one point, wasn't there? So yeah. I wonder whether maybe they've just left stuff out, assuming they're going to get another film.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, I mean, fuck. Cause, what's he done recently? White House Down was even 2 and a bit hours long, wasn't it?
Oh, God, he did that fucking, what was it called?
Stonewall,
yeah, which I don't think even came out in the UK. But got horrible fucking reviews.
Yeah, it did, didn't it? That was him trying to do sort of more, not as big budget and not as big and, Roland Emmerich-y.
Yeah, anonymous and whatnot as well. Fucking anonymous. But I'm actually, 2 hours, Independence Day 2. I could do that. 10 minutes of credits at the end, hour and 50 minutes.
Yeah, hopefully it gets in and gets its shit started quickly.
Yeah. Who knows? Also, one thing, does it sound like Bill Pullman's voice is getting weedier as he gets older?
Yeah, it does a little bit. It does sound a little bit like that.
It's really weird, though. Like, he doesn't sound like the same guy who did that speech in Independence Day.
No, and the weird thing is I haven't watched Independence Day in 20 years, and I hated that movie. But I'm going to watch it this week.
Oh, I'm rewatching that motherfucker like no one's business. I love Independence Day.
You do have a lot of love for that film, don't you? Yeah, so I'm going into it going, right, well, I hated it 20 years ago, and I've not watched it, and I can't remember it. I wonder how I'll feel now.
Wales have already scored.
Have they? Who?
Ramsey.
Ramsey? Oh.
Shit. Oh, good on him. But, yeah, no, sorry. But, yeah, 2 hours, man. Because I've got to work Saturday morning, and then I'm just going to hit like a 12 midday-ish showing of Independence Day, and that's going to do pretty nicely, I think. Yeah.
When is it actually out? Is it out on Friday or
Thursday? Saturday. What have I got?
I might even go and see it Thursday.
Yeah. What time's it on Thursday? What am I on Thursday? 9:05. Oh, it's a 4:50 showing in 2D.
Oh, I could go and see it pretty much any time.
Oh, it's going to be interesting. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know. It's just like Roland Emmerich going back to the well. Is he doing it because he's actually got something of interest, or is it literally just going back to the well?
It's going back to the well.
Probably.
Yeah, there's nothing interesting. This quite literally is. Somebody sat there and went, "Hey, you know it's nearly 20 years since Independence Day came out. You're shitting me. No, Independence Day 2.
Yeah.
Boom."
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, do you know what? It might. Do you know what? I'm expecting it to be fun, at least. I'll take. If I come out of that going, do you know what? I had fun. I'll be happy.
That gives me an excuse to watch Independence Day again. It'll do for me. And the version on iTunes I've got now includes the extended cut. I love it. I love it when iTunes add extras.
They added extras onto it.
Yeah, they do. They do it from time to time. They'll just poke more extras on there. Usually around the time that a sequel or a remake's coming out that they do it. But yeah.
Okay.
That'll do, yeah. Anyway, yeah, Independence Day 2 next week should be interesting. And let's go watch some football.
Yes, I'm going to go eat and watch football. So yeah, thank you very much for listening.
Bye.
Bye.